The Nintendo Switch is the best console of this generation, and I'll happily fight whoever disagrees. Go on, put my address up on the screen. Put it up so people know where to come. Not my real address. Like a joke address. It's a joke. Well, it's too late now. People have already seen it. I'm gonna have weirdos coming to my house, man. The Nintendo Switch, though, is a console that is almost 8 years old now, and it's still putting up an admirable fight against Sony and Microsoft, putting them all to shame with aging insides no thicker than a slice of bread. But with the Nintendo Switch 2 on the way, it's almost time to say goodbye to this beloved console. So we've gathered here today to remember the Nintendo Switch. So why don't we look back at the 8 glorious years we've had with it and pick one game from each year that made it the phenomenon that we know and love. The 720p scratched and chipped warrior that's been lugged around in backpacks, played in beds and dropped on its head more times than me as a baby. Shit. 2017, The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild. How could it not be Breath of the Wild? The Zelda game that redefined what an open world could be. After years and years of the genre becoming a bloated mess, Nintendo finally caved and said, Fine, we'll do an Ubisoft game, but good. Unlike traditional open world titles that relied on quest markers, lengthy tutorials and endless towers, Breath of the Wild encouraged organic exploration. From the moment Link emerges onto that hill and looks out over Hyrule, the game trusts players to carve their own path by climbing any surface, gliding across the vast landscape and discovering the world at their own pace. So much so that if you were skilled enough, you could head straight to Ganon from the start. Oh my god, can you believe that? The gall, the gumption. It would be like booking a weekend trip to America and challenging Trump to a naked mud wrestle as soon as you got off the flight, getting off that flight and immediately ripping off your clothes, storming to the White House, banging on all the doors, screaming, Donald! Donald, I'm here! A quick shout out as well to Super Mario Odyssey, because even though Breath of the Wild was a deft reinvention of a beloved franchise, Mario Odyssey showed that Nintendo still had the chops to deliver their usual classics. Fun, charming, and a level of difficulty perfect for newcomers, but with the additional challenge there for those who really wanted to test if those court-mandated anger management classes were working. 2018, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Following 2017's double bill of single-player games, Nintendo made sure 2018 delivered the multiplayer game the world needed, featuring the largest character roster in the series, including every single fighter from previous games and umpteen new additions like Simon Belmont, Ridley from Metroid, Steve and Alex from Minecraft, and of course, the Domino's Pizza tracking robot. Masahiro Sakurai, a man who looks like a child cosplaying as an adult, hasn't definitively stated that this is the last Smash game, but his comments suggest that Ultimate was intended as the culmination of his work on the franchise. And if so, I don't think anyone can complain that it wasn't a perfect swan song. It stands as this living museum of gaming's greatest icons. Every stage, soundtrack and character is a love letter to the industry. A rare example of a game that unites fans across different genres, companies and eras, like a playable peace treaty. 2019, Untitled Goose Game. See all those video games that are trying to be funny by crushing up and snorting Marvel movies? They don't get it. Goose Game gets it. You know what comedy is? Comedy is making a farmer fall on his bum. You know what comedy is? Comedy is a big goose's face on all the televisions in a television shop. You know what comedy is? Comedy is stealing a child's glasses, trapping him in a phone box and honking at him until he cries. Although, to be fair, that one is a bit of a busman's holiday for me. With timed console exclusivity on the Switch, Untitled Goose Game became a worldwide sensation and the Switch was the perfect home for it. 2020, Animal Crossing, New Horizons. The world is ending. But you know who's still there? Walking out from the dust clouds in slow motion? Nintendo. Who, somehow, years in advance had a spider sense-like tingling that in 2020, the people would need a game. A game that had enough depth to distract them from the world potentially ending, but was also calm and cosy enough to keep them sane while teaching their parents how to use Zoom. Animal Crossing was always a popular franchise, but here we were watching it hit the mainstream in real time, becoming one of the defining pieces of media in a year unlike any other. In a way that might make you suspicious that Nintendo didn't concoct that virus themselves in one of their Nintendo Lab. O's. 2021, Metroid Dread. One of the things I love about Nintendo is that sometimes they give us not what we want, but what we need. We were all crying for a new Metroid Prime and Nintendo instead said, Nah, I'm not going to give you it. I tell you what you can have. A new 2D Metroid. When Metroid Dread launched in 2021, it wasn't just the long-awaited return of a legendary franchise, it was the reinvention of the franchise's roots. Building on the foundations laid by Super Metroid and Metroid Fusion, Dread delivered fast-paced, fluid movement and tight combat mechanics, but its biggest innovation came in the form of the EMMI robots, relentless, near indestructible enemies that introduced an element of survival horror to the Metroidvania genre, injecting a healthy dash of alien isolation-like horror to proceedings that generated genuine panic and terror while playing. More than just a great Metroid game, Dread proved that 2D action games could still feel fresh, revitalising the franchise and reaffirming exactly why Metroid is one of the most influential series in gaming. 2022, Pokemon Legends Arceus. The game that finally brought to three-dimensional life the troubling dream millions had of trapping cute creatures in tiny balls and then making them fight to the death. It's not to the death, it's just until they lose consciousness. What? And that's better? That's better, is it? Pokemon Legends Arceus redefined what a Pokemon game could be. It broke away from the traditional formula, offering an open world inspired structure, seamless real-time mechanics, and a fresh take on catching and battling Pokemon. While it potentially didn't show the aging Switch hardware in the best light, it was another sign that Nintendo saw this generation as a chance to push ambition to the limit. And they certainly did that with Pokemon Legends Arceus. 2023, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. The argument is there that Tears of the Kingdom felt more like a well-made expansion pack than its own entry in the storied franchise. But how in 2023 this aging mobile hardware could seamlessly allow Link to dive headfirst from the clouds, through Hyrule and even further into the depths without a single visible loading screen is, I'm sorry, textbook witchcraft. On top of that, it also introduced the Ultra Hand ability, allowing players to build vehicles, bridges, and even homemade recreations of some of humanity's greatest tragedies. This freedom to create made every challenge feel open-ended, encouraging wild experimentation and personal creativity. Instead of simply refining Breath of the Wild systems, Tears of the Kingdom ripped them up and redefined them, setting a new standard for creative freedom in video games. 2024, Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door. One thing I love about the Nintendo Switch is the ports. Playing Dark Souls on a bus was an almost religious experience for me. The Arkham trilogy was fantastic if you just completely ignore the third game in the franchise, sorry, Arkham Knight, and Skyward Sword is maybe one of my favourite Zeldas, so to play that again with improved motion controls was just, a dream come true. So in 2024, when we got the news that Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door was being remastered, it felt like yet another win for the console. Widely regarded as one of the greatest RPGs ever made, and for good reason. This sequel to Paper Mario on the N64 refined the series' unique blend of turn-based combat, witty writing, and paper-themed mechanics, creating a game that still resonates with fans today. And thankfully, a whole lot of new fans got the chance to give it a shot in 2024. So there you have it, 8 games for 8 years of the Nintendo Switch. And don't forget, we've still got Metroid Prime to look forward to, although I do feel the name is very fitting. Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, because it very well might be beyond what the Switch is capable of. But I'm sure it'll run fine on the Switch too. You know, better than nothing.